So from the highs back to the lows we go, and into the third round of the Southeast Regional 2015, with myself still playing, if you can call it that, the Corporation, and my opponent, Matt, playing the Season 2 version of the Corporation, aka the Void Sirens. I give the home away cards a shuffle and let Matt choose. He gets the home side, so set up first and take the first turn, and I again avoid having to rotate the board. I tell him what my points are spent on an offensive coach and 2 coaching dice, and he tells me that his points are spent on exactly the same thing. So this game will come down to which season's corp is better. There are a number of differences between the all-male Season 1 corp and the all-female Season 2 version. Firstly, it's well worth applauding Mantic Games for including an all-female team, and actually stipulating in the rules that you can swap the Season 1 models and Season 2 models, either partially or in part, and have the same stats for each. Additionally, if you look at the female version of the models, they're not clad in metal bikinis the way some other companies might choose to do, but instead entirely comparable to their male counterparts, suited head to toe in Dreadball armour. You'll also see a massive pile of blue dice on Matt's side of the table, and one of the biggest differences for Season 2 Corp is that they start with 4 dice and no cards. Add the extra 2 dice that Matt bought with his 20 tournament points, and now there's no move that's too risky. Hopefully we'll see some outlandish plays from him to get into unlikely positions and still score using just his coaching dice. So Matt explains to me what his models are, as I've never seen them, and another difference becomes apparent. The Void Sirens only have 1 guard. She hits just as hard as the male version, but the focus of the team is a little different, being more prone to using their jacks to slow down the opponent, as they all have running interference as standard. You'll see there I'm obviously happy with my cards and showing any player any action, which is super powerful, and a striker or jack throw. Matt sets up and elects to stay defensive despite having the first turn, placing defenders in each strike zone. I set up and end up putting my 2 guards on the line of scrimmage, figuring I've got a bit of an advantage having 2 to Matt's 1. But now, understanding the game a bit more after watching Leon and Dale's game, I don't think either of us end up with a particularly strong setup, and hope new players will be able to take away a lot about basic tactics just by watching the better players at the top end of the tournament duke it out. So after setting up, we're good to start. Matt's going to launch the ball here, but before rolling for offensive coach. Now I make Matt aware that he's not rolled for offensive coach, which should be the first thing that happens, but we don't worry about it, and he rolls for it after bouncing the ball off the far wall. He rolls a 1-1-2-6, getting offensive coach, and I'm going to try and commentate a little more on what the dice rolls are, as has been requested in the Facebook group. So his first action, he comes in and slams my guard that's closest to the ball. He rolls a 1, 2, 3, 4 and a 5. It's not a bad Yahtzee hand, but only 2 successes on the Dreadball pitch. I choose to slam back. I roll a 1, 2, 3, 6, exploding into another 6, and finally a 5. So my 3 successes to Matt's 2 let me push his guard away, but I choose not to follow up, wanting to still be free in case I can get a slam on whoever picks up the ball. Matt's second action though is to try it again, using the same guard. Well, he's only got 1 to slam into me, this time rolling a 1, 3, 3, 4, 5. I slam back, rolling a 4, 5, 5, 6, exploding into another 4, which gives me 5 successes, more than doubling Matt's 2, and I send him down for 3 turns, but his armour saves keep him on the field, rolling a 1 and 3 5s. Now this obviously isn't the strong start that Matt was after, but I'm not actually threatening the ball. It's a few hexes away from me, and so having a little think about what to do here, he decides to just go pick it up with his striker. Here he rolls a 2, 3, 6, 6 for the double, allowing him to take a free action, and that gets him further up the pitch, which he does. He runs by the closest striker there, the closest strike zone, and going to try and get at the juicier 3 points at the back. So his fourth action moves him into position, that's the second with the striker, but he has the defensive coach to give it a third action, and he's going for the shot. Now Matt ends up only rolling 2 dice here, where he should have 3. We did the math a little wrong there. However, it doesn't make any difference in this instance. He manages to get the strike and even doubles. But again, after that first mistake, we immediately go into another mistake. It should generate 2 fan checks for the double, but Matt only takes 1, and this kind of sets the tone for the rest of the game. We're going to be making a lot of mistakes here, and probably quite common ones. I'll talk you through them as I've spotted them, but maybe there'll be some sort of prize for anybody that notices some that I don't in the comments. So Matt and I have mostly relied on our opponents, I think, to get us through our games and keep us right. But it's well worth, just understanding the basics of the rules and slowing down and taking your time to go through them. Otherwise, these kind of mistakes do happen in a tournament setting. Regardless, even if you manage to get an extra coaching dice with his fan checks, it's not going to help him that much. He already has 6 dice. So I use my first action of my turn to slam into the jack guarding there. I roll a 1, 2 3s and 2 5s. Matt slams back, rolls a 2, a 3 and a 6 that explodes into another 6, then into a 1. But with 2 successes each, we just turn to face each other and have to reassess what I want to do. Now, I could have liked to slam again, and if successful, use my offensive coach to slam the furthest away jack. But instead I choose to buy a card, and then move the other guard up with my third action to slam into the jack at the back and hopefully open up an opportunity to score a 4-pointer. So in my I use a card instead of my fourth action, my any player any action, to then slam into the jack from the side. Matt rolls a 2 and 2 5s, but I roll a 2, a 4, a 4, a 6, a 6, and roll that into a 3. Now I don't know why I didn't explode the second 6, but it's more than enough to flatten the defender, which is all I wanted. Matt rolls a 1, 4 and a 6 to make a successful armor roll and stays on the pitch. So with my fourth real action, I choose to sprint and go and get the ball. I'll get 3 dice. 3 is standard, 1 plus 1 for being a striker, minus 1 for sprinting, and roll a 1, 5, 6, which is enough to double and get a free run. So I like to dash, which will get me into the 4-point hex, smash that roll with at least 2 5s there. And then I really want to make sure I get the 4 points, and I like to use a coaching dice. So we do the math right, I get 2 dice plus my coaching dice, and this time I managed to roll a single success, which is a 6, but then Matt reminds me to explode it, get the 4, and that doubles. Excuse me. So I swing the point back to 1 in my favour, and I do remember to do 2 fan checks. My first fan check flips over a number 1 fan event, and the random number gives it to my closest player, to Matt there. So that's on the guard, and it means that any doubled slam or throw will generate a fan check. So that's quite nice to have on a guard deep in the opponent's half. Now this is a much stronger start than I've had in any of my other games, and it's actually quite good from both our sides, although I am 1 point up. But with the amount of mistakes we're making, and we're going to continue to make these kind of mistakes, it does result in a more frantic game, but it's not really one that you're going to learn much from. So I flip for the ref, who moves 5, and we swing it over to Matt's turn. As I said, despite the mistakes, there's a much better flow to this game, but there's a lot more back and forth. So it might be entertaining, but it's not educational. Matt starts his turn by rolling successfully for his offensive coach, gets a 3, 5, 5, 6, and then he launches the ball, which only goes to the first hex there, almost to the feet of his striker. So now he has to have a think about what he's going to do. He's got 2 players down, but definitely wants to score again, and my half's not so well defended that he can't. So he has a think, tries to get that guard back up on her feet towards his rear strike zone, but he rolls a 1, a 1 and a 3 and fails to stand her up completely. So that's going to slow him down for any plans that he had this turn. So turn again to his plan B, and rather than continue to try and get her on her feet, he decides to ignore her in favour of going for some more points. He's working out how to get round and get the ball, looking at the actions, and considering his options. But ultimately he takes what he was planning on doing back, he knows it's the second one, and tries to stand that guard again. This time he doubles, Oh no, it's sorry, the jack at the back. So this time he goes to stand the guard up in the middle, rolling a 1, a 4 and a 6. So that doubles and gives her a free action. And he considers whether or not he can get to the rear strike zone and clear a path for a 4-pointer of his own. Quite a big ask, it's a fair distance away. So instead he's going to try and just improve his board, move further up and slam into my jack in the middle there. Matt rolls 3, 5, 5, 6, 6, explodes that into a 3 and a 5, which gives him 5 successes in total. I slam back with my paltry 3 dice and get a whopping 1 success, rolling 2 1s and a 4. And at the moment I'm dead if I fail my armor rolls, but I get a 2, a 3 and a 5, and that just sends me off for 3 turns, earning a fan check for the Void Siren guard. The check doesn't help him though, just flipping a weird bounce card, event card, and that will scatter the ball for a second time after it's come to rest for a first time. So now things go from bad to worse for Matt, who attempts to pick up the ball with his striker in his third action, but rolls a 1, 2, 3, 3 and fails, ending his rush just after scattering the ball. Now it doesn't go far, just ends up 1 hex away, bouncing twice after the event, but it is out with her threat hexes. So I imagine it's about this time that Matt wishes he went and bought himself a new set of dice the way I did to get rid of these bad rolls. Of course it probably wouldn't have made any difference. They're dice, you're rolling them, they're random, and we all know that it's bad luck to be superstitious. The turn ended, Matt moved the ref and play passes to me. I roll 4 5s for my offensive coach, wasting a good roll, but again, bad luck to be superstitious. But my offensive coach with 4 5s obviously going to be on fleek this rush. I don't really know what on fleek means, but I do hear the kids using it. I'm old. I use my first action to buy a card. Not sure if it influences my decisions for the rest of this turn, but it's always good to have options and buy cards early with your actions. I choose to use my second action to bring on a striker with sprint. Now I do have the intention of getting the ball with this player, but I realise I'm going to have to make a number of dice rolls to get there, including 2 dashes and a dodge. In fact 2 dodges most likely. And then I'll still be at -1 to picking up the ball even if I got there. So instead I choose to stop just in front of Matt's striker there, and put a threat hex down. Now threat hexes aren't particularly strong in this game, or not as strong as I think they maybe could be, but every time you force your opponent to roll the dice they have a chance of failing, and so I still think it's worth doing. Here I calculate if my other striker can get to the ball by sprinting or running. I use the third action to sprint, and then I only have to dash once, which I make, rolling a 4, 4, 6 for the double. Rolling a 1, 3, 4, 5 for the dash, successfully getting to the ball, and then I roll 3 dice for the pickup, which is a 4, 4, 6 for the double, getting a free action. Now here we get it wrong again. I cheat massively, and I use that free action to sprint back to where I was. On a free action, and you've heard me say it a dozen times in these videos, you can't use that to sprint. But I say to Matt, oh yeah, I'll do the same thing to get back, I suppose, and he wholeheartedly, though dejectedly, agrees, and I make my way back and dash, rolling 1, 2, 4, 5 to get into the 4-point zone. Now ultimately I could end up doing what I end up doing with the actions that I have left, and actually my turn here goes a little worse for me. My board state actually gets worse than if I hadn't cheated by getting the sprint action off the double. So I used my fourth action to go for a slam on the guard that's still standing, rolling a 1, 1, 2, 2, 4, and Matt gets a 4 and a 5, doubling my successes and knocking me down for 1 turn. But I do make my armor saves and stay on the pitch. And then finally I use my last action to throw, along with a coaching dice which lets me double, rolling a 1, 5, 5 and go 5 points clear. So this means only a 2-pointer if Matt doesn't score, and then I can close out the game. Now, you know, Matt, if you're listening, I apologise for cheating there, but what I could have done was just as easily use the free action to move up, used another action to run to that spot, and then finally use the last action to throw the ball. All that would have happened is that my guard would not have been going for a little sleepy weepy on the ground. So in this instance, it's worked out in Matt's advantage, but actually it is, you know, I'm Cheaty McCheaterson, and you know, another example of a common rookie mistake. So now we're going to go on to our next mistake. Yeah, there's many of them. So Matt rolls for his offensive coach, rolling a 1-1-1-6, getting the extra action this turn if he wishes, and then launches the ball which hits his player. Now, under the original rules, page 30 of the rulebook, Matt would first of all had a chance to catch the ball with his striker. Though with no dice, +1 for being a striker, -1 for being in my threat hex, he'd have to rely on his coaching dice to make it. Assuming he didn't want to do that, the ball would scatter as he does here, but under Season 3 rules, it's as if the ball was thrown at him. I should roll 6 dice because it's the first hex and get successes on a 4, and Matt should have attempted to dodge with 3 dice, potentially taking out his striker. So just another addition to our cacophony of errors. Matt's going to want to try and get the 4-pointer here though, to bring himself back into the game, and he uses his first action to come slam my guard in the rear, my jack, sorry, in the rear strike zone. He doesn't want to be standing in the way, so he has to dash for the 6th movement hex and gets a 2-4-5 for the success. But then he hits me with a 1-2-3-4-5 again for 2 successes. I slam back and roll 2 mystery successes off camera, so just turn to face him. But as he desperately needs to get me out of the way, he slams again, this time on 4 dice as he's not moved. Rolls 1-2-4-4 for 2 successes, but this time I fail, rolling nothing, getting 1-1-3, and so get knocked down for 2 turns. So with the path clear, he goes for the ball. The striker moves out of the space to evade, rolling 2-2-3-4. And then moves to pick up the ball, rolling 2-2-3-5. Only a single, doesn't get the extra action. But now can think about sprinting up to the 4-point zone and getting a 4-pointer with his last action of the turn. So that's exactly what he does. Sprints up for almost exactly 10 there, and then uses his last action to make the throw. This time we do get the dice right, only 2, but with 6 coaching dice, I don't know why Matt doesn't choose to put 1 or 2 into this throw, as it is fairly crucial that he makes it. He rolls a 2 and a 3, missing, and then scatters the ball to end up just near my subs bench. Now in Matt's defence, you'll see me not use my coaching dice particularly liberally either, having not used any until this game, and it's very easy to forget that you have them when you're caught up in the heat of the moment. To be fair, after moving the ref, he does realise that he should have stopped to think about it and used a coaching dice. So now I only need 2 points to claim the landslide, and you can be pretty sure I'm going to go for it. I roll for my offensive coach, getting 1-2-5-6. So this turn I do have him and can give a player a third action this rush. But now I need to just figure out how I'm going to score this turn and win. Both the 2-point zones are guarded at this point, though I could perhaps get up to the 3 or 4-point zone with a double sprint. But I'd have to be after picking up the ball, and then I wouldn't have enough actions to attempt the strike unless I've got a card in hand. I'm planning out my turn here, not quite sure what the best action is to take. With my first one, I move the striker that's in the middle out of the way. Now I think I do this in order to make my sprint distance a little further when I pick up the ball, not having to turn, which obviously eats up a lot of your move, is pretty crucial. So I go to pick it up, and with my second action, get the ball and double. I roll at least a 4 and a 6 there, can't see all my dice. Make a run, not cheating and sprinting this turn. But then I work out what I'm doing and go to get the 2 points. So here I work out the distance. I can definitely sneak around the back. There's no threat hexes on that the jack that's in the strike zone, and then I'll be able to get around there and make the throw for the 2 points. Except I'm not going to get 2 points, am I? I'm standing on the 1-point hex like a fanny. This game is getting increasingly ridiculous with all our mistakes. But it continues on. I have a throw card in hand and I like to use it, but with 2 actions left, I decide to buy cards. I don't know why. I was convinced I was about to win here, so I don't know why I had to buy 2 cards. So I work out that I'm getting 3 dice for the throw, and determined to make it, I pick up both my coaching dice to use. But then I twig. This is only for a single point and can't win me the game. Did I mention that I'm a bit of a fanny? So I roll my 3 dice, I get a 1-1-3, which misses entirely anyway. Then scatter the ball, and luckily it ends up further into Matt's half of the field. I go to move the ref, but flip over the excitable fan event. So any strike attempt will generate a fan check, even if it misses. That would be handy last turn, but regardless, we move on. So it turns out that buying those 2 cards is not the worst move I've ever made. In fact, you've probably seen some of the worst moves I've ever made during this game. But we're going to see how if I can take advantage of having them as we move on. So on to turn 7. Matt's still in the world of hurt, 5 points down. The ball's in the back of his field, nobody's on his feet near it. He's going to have to pull out a bit of a Hail Mary play this turn to stop me from actually getting the win next turn. He gets his offensive coach, rolling 3-3-5-6, and can give a player a 3rd action this turn. But he's going to have to use it particularly well to get anywhere. For his first action, he tries to stand up the jack that's at the back, hope to double and go get the ball. But rolling a 1-2-3 is not going to do it, and she continues to have a doze on the floor. So he comes up with plan B and uses the other jack to sprint to get the ball. And rolling a 1-4-6 to get the double. So that gives him a... he makes a dash to get the ball, and then goes to pick it up and uses a coaching dice, getting a 2-3-5 to pick it up, but no free action. So yeah, that first roll was for the dash, and the second roll there was to pick it up, but only manages to get a single success and doesn't get to go away. So he's now only able to give that jack 2 more actions, and he's only got 3 more actions left. So he'll have to think about how he's going to score, and decides to bring his striker back to go for a passing play. Getting into position to receive the catch, you have to be facing the thrower, and now he's going to sprint with the jack to get as close as possible before using his last action to make the throw. So sprinting there on action 4, final action to make the pass. He gets 3 dice for being a jack, -1 dice for the distance of 4 to 6 hexes, and then he throws in a coaching dice for good measure, rolling in this instance a 4, 5 and a 6. So with 3 successes, that's your baseline for catching. Being a striker, catching, getting extra dice, and this time he rolls a 3-3-4-6, which doubles to give him the action that he needs. He's going to turn the striker around, make the shot, this time getting 2 dice, again doing the math right there, and rolling a 6, which will do it, and reloading the cock dice, which ends up being a 1, gaining him 2 points. So that puts the game still 3 points in my favour. I'm not really sure how best to refer to the scoreline in Dreadball. It's not 3-0, and he's not 3 points down exactly. I guess if it was someone like tennis, and since it's Matt's turn, I would refer to his score as -3. I'm not sure. If anybody can let me know in the comments what the best way of referring to the score is, do let me know. So there he moves the referee to finish his turn. And Matt draws board fans, so any rush that doesn't generate a fan check forces the team to lose a random fan support cards. So, you may have just spotted error number 42 there. Matt moves the turn tracker before moving the ref card. Now as the ref moves at the end of the rush, I don't count the turn until I'm ready to start rolling my coaching dice. So I assume that we forgot to move it at the start of Matt's turn and move it up, so we've now just skipped 2 turns as well. I failed my offensive coach, launched the ball, and I like to go pick up the ball in my first action, no messing about. So I sprint, having exactly 10 to get there. I get 3 dice for the pickup and roll a 2-3-5, failing to get the double that I particularly want. Figuring I only need 4 points to close out the game, I am on 3 points still. I try and come up with a plan. So I move the guard out of the way. Sorry, my striker out of the way, and then use my third action to sprint the striker with the ball up to the 4-point zone. Again, it's exactly 10 to finish my turn picking it up. I rifle through my cards to see what I can do, and obviously have a plan. But in case it all goes wrong, I choose to stand up my jack at the rear, fail, and try to stand up the guard that's closer. I then play a card from hand, any player, any action again, and go for the game-winning throw. This time I've got 2 dice, use my last 2 coaching dice to hammer the nail in the coffin, hopefully, but I wasn't needing it, rolling a 1, a 6, a 6, and a 6. But that's it. So Matt immediately offers the handshake, and it's been the only decent handshake on camera yet. It's not that we're too wimpy to know how to do a good handshake, you know, get that proper web-to-web grip, but the table is a little bit far apart, and so far we've all really been too lazy to reach across, so definitely thanks to Matt for that. Ultimately, this video really should just be used to serve as a video for common Dreadball mistakes. You know, I think theoretically I could have still won it, but I did cheat, so should really give Matt the win. In that case, you know, I could have finally got that wooden spoon I so desperately wanted. But I'm not going to show my 4th game, although it's, you know, less filled with errors than this. I don't think there's much value in showing these types of games. So I will upload the 3rd round from the top bracket and the final. I'll let you know when they're posted.